Stop being a moron, shouting at people for wearing masks, shouting people, don't get the stabby, you're gonna die, using a moralistic and accusatory tone, needlessly blocking the road, arguing amongst yourselves. I've attended almost every one of these freedom rallies since the beginning. I can tell you that this is bad optics. It's always been bad optics. Who knows how many hundreds or thousands of people have been turned away by these people. This sort of behavior is going to turn off the general public, and it's going to turn off people who come to our protests, because they're going to see a bunch of morons and crazy people, and they won't be mistaken in that assessment. So there's a need we have for simple messaging. It has to be simple. It has to be on a grade 3 level. Seriously. Because people are not too sophisticated, the general public. So that means you have to stay in line. Stay on script. You have to set a good example. But because there's no organization, this is practically impossible. Everyone's just there for their own reason. And a lot of them enjoy venting their frustrations at the public. But why this would be a good thing, even if you're not going to convince the public to join you, why this would be a good thing in and of itself, like to behave this way, it's not going to help. It's not going to help anyone. When we were crossing the Bloor Street Viaduct, which goes over the Don River, this is I guess a 4-lane road, like 2 lanes each way, and we were blocking the third. We were basically blocking the entire bridge as we were going across. But there weren't that many of us, and I was just thinking, like, wow, like, some people in this march definitely made the decision to try and block that road. Like, how? Like, you're just holding up all this traffic. And I guess you could say, oh, well, that's the point. We're trying to make a disturbance so people notice. It's like, well, I guess to an extent, but you didn't have to block that third lane. You didn't have to block the third lane, but they went a little bit extra to try and do that, which I thought was kind of douchey. It's not like you had so many people on your march. And then, again, just being negative, like shouting at someone, oh, like, you've gotten the stabby, you're gonna die, or don't get it. Like, it's like, even if I agree with your message, it's like people are so trigger happy. I mean, so you say something that's not quite in line with what they think, and then they'll just immediately say, like, oh, that's propaganda. It's like, what are you talking about? What on earth are you talking about? Morons. And like I said, who knows how many hundreds or thousands of people you've just turned away. And so when you explain this, this is what happens when you try to tell people this, when they're in the act, when they're out in public behaving this way. You say, hey, like, maybe it's not such a good idea to shout at people for wearing masks. Maybe you can use a different strategy. Then a lot of them, when they hear this, they just immediately accuse you of working for the enemy. They can't seem to understand the concept of optics, or why, or like, how are we going to help our side win? Do you want this sort of oppression to go away, or do you want it to get worse? It's like they don't really care. And I mean, when we showed up at Woodbine Beach, where there were thousands of people just hanging out, enjoying the sun, and then a few hundred of us show up. And by the way, I felt kind of embarrassed at this point, like, maybe I shouldn't be on these marches anymore, because, like, these people, So when we showed up at Woodbine Beach, like, who wants to be lectured and you shouted at when you're just hanging out in the sun? It's like totally tone deaf. Like you, it's just like the world is not a stage, contrary to the popular saying. It's not. It's not. Not every place in the city is a stage for you to vent. And by the way, like, these people who carry these wooden crosses in full view, leading the march, some of these people have good intentions, but you're just juxtaposing the cross, the Christian symbol. You're juxtaposing that next to techno music, next to some degeneracy a lot of the time. Or planting it on the beach in Woodbine Beach. I think that's fine. They just wanted to find a place for it. But then you just like women in bikinis dancing around this cross, posing for photographs with this cross. I mean, give me a break. This is ridiculous. And I had a friend with me, and she goes to, I think, a non-denominational church. And she knows I go to an Orthodox church. So we're on different ends of the spectrum. But both, like she and I, we were both like, could see that, oh, this is a very bad look. That's just a bad look. Very tone deaf. I mean, I guess you could say, oh, it's good to plant the cross in a heathen area, or it's like, I get that, but there's just also a lot of needless, like, that doesn't mean you have to just drag a symbol anywhere you go. I mean, you can, I think you could use a little more discretion in how you use these symbols. So, yeah, just, oh, and another thing, arguing among themselves, like different protesters, like who's going to lead the march, or how long have you been here? So it's just, I don't get involved in all that stuff. It's stupid. A lot of dumb stuff. And the fact that they get so triggered if you merely try to tell them that, to explain your perspective, then that just shows that they're just there because they want to vent, and they're not really interested in helping the cause, ending this oppression. I'll conclude this video by telling you what happened a few months ago. It was in December. This is when the protests were still at Yonge and Dundas Square, before the crackdown had begun. But there were always these people since the summer playing this like dance music, this techno music. But this one particular Saturday, when we were returning to Yonge and Dundas Square, they were playing it extremely loud, like way more louder than usual. And having observed this for many months, I went over there and asked them to turn it down, and they didn't like that. And I got into an argument with the DJ on top of this pickup truck where the equipment was set up, and also, I guess, someone else, some other guy who was standing beside the truck. He was the main guy I was arguing with. But the DJ at one point was like, suck my, you know what I mean. And I said, oh, so you're a bundle of sticks? By bundle of sticks, that's not the word I used, but I think you can kind of catch my drift. And then because I said that, the guy that was standing next to me was like, made a big deal, like, oh, he started calling like a racist or something. He was calling me a racist and a white supremacist. Because I told him, I was like, what do you believe anyways? And he turned out to be a libertarian, and I'm like, well, I'm not surprised you're a libertarian. He was getting really angry. He couldn't argue with me. It started out in an alright, respectful way, but then they were just douchebags, and it escalated from there. Because they didn't want to turn down the music. It's not even good music, it's crap. But like, what makes you think that this is going to help us, that you're blaring this music this deafening thump. Like, how is that helping us? And then he was saying something like, oh, well, the like bars and clubs, we've been shut down. So this is us expressing ourselves, man. Don't you want the stuff to open up again? And I'm like, well, that's stupid. Like, that doesn't mean how are you going to build sympathy by forcing what you like on the general public? That's dumb. That's dumb. That's not going to help it. It's because you're just doing it because you like, it's a party for you. For like 25% of these protesters, or if you could call them protesters, like for 25% to maybe even more, maybe even like 35%, they're just here to party. And that's what they do. And a lot of them go to Cherry Beach later. They party at Cherry Beach. I've never been interested in going there. So that's why they just bring this big techno music around, and not all the DJs are that bad, and I'm not including everyone in this. There are some nice people there that just enjoy dancing sometimes to the music, but yeah, it's like I was telling the guy, like, it's not even good music and it's shit music, and then he's like, well, that's just your opinion, and I'm like, well, I don't know. Some things are objectively true about music, like Johnny Cash or Tom Petty. At least that would be better than this crap that you're playing, and you're just blaring it. And like, who? So, and they thought they had no idea who I was. I'm like, I've been going here probably longer than you are. So basically, then the guy was like saying like, has anyone ever knocked you the fuck out? He kept asking me that. Has anyone ever knocked you the fuck out? And I was like, no. And he's like, exactly. And but this guy was shorter than me. Like, he didn't intimidate me at all. And yeah, so and then I think I was calling him a bundle of sticks, like, you bundle of sticks. Like, he didn't like that. And then eventually he lunged at me, so I spat in his face. And then he was like, oh, that's assault. Spitting in someone's face is assault. And then he got the police involved. And then when I saw that he was serious, I just started walking away. But the police came over to talk to me. But when they heard that the guy had lunged at me, then they were like, oh, well, that's a double assault. And so they just let it it go. But this guy was a huge pussy. And then why would you get the police involved just because someone was like calling you on your bullshit that you had no good response to? Like, you never thought that anyone would actually like, hey, like, you're actually not helping the cause. You're actually just here to party, you degenerate. So he was proving my point about that he was not a real man. He's just proving my point. Because if I'm if you're getting called like a weak man, essentially, if you're getting called something like that, and then you get angry and then you decide to go get the daddy police officer involved because someone spat at you because you lunged at them because you're trying to intimidate them. And I was just trying to be the responsible conservative, dealing with these stupid hippies. Not that he was really a hippie, and not that I was Clint Eastwood, but that was kind of the dynamic there that I felt. And yeah, I told him that I don't even believe in democracy, and then that was enough for him to label me a Nazi. It's just very, very stupid. These people haven't thought through their shit at all. But that was basically my story, so I ended up having to get in trouble there, but it was a little close. But yeah. And then, yeah, I mean, I have a few other stories I could tell, but I think that's pretty much enough for now. Hasta luego, amigos.